This is my seed phrase, and I've stored it in my brain so no one can steal my Bitcoin. Just to prove it to you, let me show you that I knew it. And before I go, if you want to pause this video, look away from the screen and see how many of those 12 words you can remember. Give it a go, see how well you perform. But here we go. Drive, flip, display, garden, better, task, sample, tackle, uphold, liquid, various, laptop. Because I have this stored in my head, nobody can steal my Bitcoin. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, this is not my actual seed phrase, but if you are storing your Bitcoin on something like a hardware wallet or a software wallet, you're going to have a seed phrase that is your key to access your crypto, your Bitcoin, whatever you have stored on it. And seed phrases are normally made up of 12 or 24 words. And if you want to memorize your seed phrase for that extra level of security, then I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that in this video. It's a lot easier than you think it is. The method I'm going to teach you is actually something I learned a couple years ago when I took the Dale Carnegie course. This is a professional development course that teaches you how to show up more confidently, public speaking, and in social situations. And they taught us this method as a way to remember the kind of things you could ask people when you're meeting them for the first time and, making small talk, and to remember what kind of things you should ask them. In the course, when they introduced this concept to us, they brought out a whiteboard that had like 30 words written on it, just 30 random words. And they had all of us in the room look at that for a couple of minutes, and then they covered it and then asked us to write down as many of those words in order as we could. And of course, none of us could remember all 30 words. You are maybe at best able to remember up to like 10 of them. But while we were doing this, they took one person from the class and took them outside the room while this was happening. And they had one of their coaches teach them this mysterious method to memorize all those words. And they came back in like 5-10 minutes later. So after we had all failed to remember these 30 words, this person came in and stood with their back to the list of words and recited all of them like that. And we were all amazed. This process can be equally useful for memorizing your seed phrase, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. But first, why would you want to memorize your seed phrase in the first place? Well, it's an extra level of safety. It gives you a little extra peace of mind, just knowing that if anything ever happened to your physical device, that you have your seed phrase in your head and there's no way you're going to lose access to your funds. It also means that it's even harder for your Bitcoin to be seized. Bitcoin is already difficult for, say, the government to come and take from you. Now, technically, they could send officers to your house, find your wallet, and find where you've written down your seed phrase. But if you have it saved in your head, there's really not much they can do to force you to reveal it to them. It's also useful if you were, say, fleeing from a country that did not want you to take your wealth with you, and you wanted to do that in the form of Bitcoin. Maybe they're searching your luggage for devices like these ones. And in that case, it doesn't matter because you wouldn't need to take that with you. You could simply store it in your head, and it's just an extra added layer of security to keep your Bitcoin safe. But all that being said, here is the way to easily memorize your seed phrase so you can store your Bitcoin in your mind. And memorizing a list of random words is really difficult on its own, which is why we're not going to do that. What we're actually going to do, and what is the secret to making this really simple, is we're going to create a visual story associated with all of those words. So I'm going to pull up that seed phrase I showed you at the beginning. I just generated this with a seed phrase generator. This is pulling from the list of words that are used in the SHA-256, I believe it's called, the code they use to generate the seed phrases. So this one, I've just generated a 12-word one just to make this simple, but this works just as well with a 24-word seed phrase. And I've also created a mental story to help me memorize my actual seed phrase that goes along with this guy. So let's take a look at these words. So I've generated 12 words. We have drive, flip, display, garden, better, task, sample, tackle, uphold, liquid, various, and laptop. So we start at the beginning. So let's think of a story we can visualize and create for ourselves using these words in order. So just looking at the first few words here, I'm thinking, okay, we're picturing we are in a car. So we drive down the road and then we flip open our display, and on that display is an image of a garden. So, okay, visualize. We're driving down the road. Okay, we turn, we flip open our display, and there is a garden. Okay, so what does this garden mean to us? Our next word is better. So say we are like John Wick or something. We're on a mission. So this garden, say, is the location of our next mission. And we look at that and we think, if we can complete this mission, we're going to earn enough to earn a better life for our family. So there we go. We have garden, and next is better. So our next words after that are task and sample. So task falls into this whole mission idea. So after we've looked at the picture of the garden where our next mission is, we've thought about our family and the better life we're going to earn for them. Okay, our next task is to take this sample we have. So say we have this test tube full of glowing green liquid. We have to take this sample to the lab. Okay, the next words are tackle and uphold. So say this lab in the garden has a guard out front. So we have to tackle that guard so we can go in and take our sample in, and say there is a robot machine that needs to scan our sample. So we uphold it to the machine so it can scan. Okay, so there we go. Let's review. So, okay, we're driving down the road, then we flip open our display to see the picture of a garden where our next mission is. This is where we're going. We imagine the better life for our family we're going to be able to afford when we complete this. And then we continue on with our task, which is to bring the sample that I have in the seat next to me to this lab. But first we have to tackle that guard, go into the lab, then we hold up our sample for the machine to scan. Okay, what do we have next? Our last three words are liquid, various, and laptop. So, okay, our sample is already a liquid, so say we take that liquid and we pour it into various petri dishes. Okay, the last one is laptop. So once we've done that, we get the data from the experiment, and then we use the laptop to send that data back to HQ, and our mission is complete. So let's go through that whole thing just one more time to solidify that story in our minds. We want to visualize it while we're doing that, because this is how we're going to easily remember all of these words in the right order. So back to the beginning. We're our agent, we're driving in our car. We flip open our display and we see a picture of the garden, which is where our next mission is at. We imagine the better life for our family we're going to be able to afford after we complete it. So we move on with our task, which is to bring this sample we have next to us in the car to the lab. So we get out of our car, go up to the lab entrance, we tackle the guard, go inside, hold up that sample for the robot to scan. Once we've done that, we pour the liquid into the various petri dishes, and then we upload that data from the experiment to the laptop to send it back to HQ. And there we have our 12-word seed phrase memorized in our brain. Just a few tips if you want to make this a little easier for you. I know this was only a 12-word seed phrase, but this works the same way for a 24-word one. It's just going to be a longer story, a longer visualization that you come up with. You don't have to memorize all of it at once. The way I approached mine was I would start with the first, 3, 4, 5 words and come up with something to visualize for that. And then over the next couple of days, whenever I thought about it, I would think, okay, what are my words? And I'd go through and list them. Once I knew I had those words, I would go and add on another 3 or 4 words. So once I got the first 5, then okay, add 3 more. Then I'm at 8. So then I would do the same thing maybe for a couple of days and see if I can still recall those 8 words that I have in my list. Once I'm comfortable with that, I go on and add a few more and repeat until you get to the end of your seed phrase. Now you may want to start by setting yourself a reminder every day to go over your seed phrase and see if you can still remember it. But as time goes on, you can leave longer and longer periods of time between that. So at this point now, every so often I'll think about it. I wonder if I still know my seed phrase, and I will stop and think and visualize and go through them all. And if I am forgetting anything, if I stumble on something or I forget a word, then I'll go back, pull out my little card with my seed phrase on it and just refresh myself just to make sure it's constantly in my brain. But over time, it'll become second nature, and you can simply just think of the picture, think of the story, and know what the words are without constantly having to repeat the recall on it. An important thing to remember is not to share this with anybody, so don't write it down, don't tell anybody what the story is, because again, if somebody knows your seed phrase, they can access and take your Bitcoin. So this story is just for you, just for inside your own brain. And the last thing is that some of the words you may have in your seed phrase are not necessarily easy to come up with things for. So things like nouns and verbs are pretty easy. It's easy to think of a thing and then put that into a story. But you might have harder words like, for example, among or any or assume. So try to come up with a memorable visualization to remember that specific word. So for some words that are difficult, I might think of, okay, if my first word was building and my next word was assume, I might think, okay, the building has a sign above the door that says assume. But as long as you are visualizing that, then it's easy to remember. But using this method, you can memorize your seed phrase in an afternoon or a couple of days if you want to spread it out. As long as you are periodically repeating and making sure you remember, it's a good way to keep your Bitcoin safe and know that you're not going to accidentally lose it in the case that your hardware wallet gets destroyed or lost or something like that. It's just that extra added layer of security, and it's a neat little party trick. But that is it for this video, guys. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and share it with a friend. If you don't have a hardware wallet just yet, or you do, but you don't know how to set it up, check out this video next. I'll walk you through the process of getting everything set up and good to go. And then you can go ahead and apply this video to memorize your seed phrase. But I will see you in the next video.